NextGenWeb is joined right now by George Yu with the Digital Society, and George is a leading voice on technology and internet issues. And George, we appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Well, we just wrapped up an event talking about the future of the internet. To put that in a few words, and certainly the net neutrality and the FCC NPRM was a big part of that discussion. George, there's a growing chorus of people saying that the FCC's proposed rules are really more about a government-managed internet than it is about keeping the internet an open platform, which certainly we support. Is it fair to put it in that context?
I think so, because the current internet is an open platform where we allow various business models, we allow different kinds of experimentation, whereas under the newly proposed rules, which supposedly preserves the internet, it actually changes the internet.
Okay.
So, for example, the first four principles have experienced some subtle changes, but very important changes. For example, the original four freedoms that Chairman Powell outlined said you get the right to access content of your choice and access application of your choice within your service plan, right? But the new NPRM four principles, for example, doesn't make that exception. So right now, for example, you can get web phones or wireless web phone, smartphone internet access, which are restricted to just the phone. Now, nobody likes restrictions, but the trade-off is that you pay half the price. And instead of paying $60 a month for wireless broadband service, you're only paying $30 a month for wireless broadband service. We have other devices like the Peak Simply email device, which is just an email device, and you only pay $20 a month, but you only get email access.
Right.
So all other protocols are blocked by the provider.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with that because you pay for what you get, and in the case of the Amazon Kindle, you pay nothing, but Amazon gets to block anything that they want, and they only allow you to access certain websites that have partnerships with them, and they only allow you to access their bookstore, which is completely fair because you're not paying anything for that service.
Right.
And so we shouldn't have regulators stepping in and saying that these innovative business models are invalid.
Right. Now, we heard Dr. Farber and Richard Bennett and others today talk about how this proposed NPRM really is setting up a debate between innovation on the edge versus healthy investment in the center, when really those two things are symbiotic.
It's not just innovation on the edge versus innovation in the center. It goes deeper than that. It's more about who gets the ability to do business on whether, when we're talking about content distribution, which is a very, very large business. The current NPRM, as it's written, paragraph 106, says that we don't want to allow broadband providers the ability to offer premium services or prioritize services. So we are locking them out of the content distribution market. When someone like Google not only owns the server infrastructure, but they also own the network infrastructure. Google, based on a recent Arbor Networks report, accounts for roughly 7 to 10% of the entire internet's traffic. And Google essentially operates a private internet, their own private backbone to the entire internet, in addition to massive data centers that allow them to have this wonderful content distribution network.
Right.
So Google's arguing that only those on the edges, they're arguing that they're only on the edge, and only those that are on the edge and don't operate broadband businesses should be allowed to participate and compete in the content distribution market. This bill is much more than about just regulating the technology, which in and of itself is bad enough, but it goes way farther than that. It goes as far as specifically targeting a particular industry and saying, you guys don't get to compete in this business, but we'll allow other companies to compete in this business. I think there is some vague logic to that, and only in the sense that it's kind of a reaction to the former CEO Ed Markey's comment that nobody's going to use my pipes for free. And so there was a lot of concern that ISPs were going to be blocking or degrading content unless you paid them for that content, unless you paid them for priority. I think those concerns have shown themselves to be false, because since, in the last 3 years since those comments have been made, the ISPs have not had the market power to block content. It turns out that the content providers have all the market power to block the ISPs. When you look at ESPN 360, for example, they are the ones that intimidate ISPs by saying, we are going to block your entire network unless you pay us a per subscriber fee. So all the market power belongs to the edge already. So there really is no concern. Now, if we wanted to have a reasonable rule that says perhaps we don't want ISPs double dipping, so if you're already charging the customer for bandwidth, you should not be double charging the content provider for delivery. That might be a reasonable rule, like no double dipping. But we shouldn't say that the content provider, the ISP, should not be able to charge the content provider ever, because that rules out certain business models like the Amazon Kindle, where the user doesn't pay for the network, but the content provider pays for the service.
George, we really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you.